Hello there to our Full Pint patrons, and welcome to your exclusive Prestigious Pints pubcast episode. What a mouthful that is. So yes, welcome back to another one of these very special exclusive episodes just for you, our Full Pint subscribers. Thank you very much for your patronage. This one is including myself and Jeff. We went all the way to New Zealand, well, virtually, to chat with an Agile coach that goes back a long way with both of us. That's Sandy Mamoli. So we talked about Sandy and how she got started with Agile and very much what's going on the other side of the world. So it's great to catch up with people in a remote sense from anywhere in the world. It's great to have a chat with Sandy. So we hope you enjoy it. Just a reminder that you're still entitled to ask us a question through the Ask the Landlord chat function. So make sure you use check into Patreon to check that out. And also coming up, we've got a lock-in. So keep your eyes peeled for our lock-in night for a drink with me and Jeff. Just a special lock-in only episode for you, our patrons, to come and share a pint or a drink of your choice with us. So we hope you enjoyed this one. It was a great chat. Here is Jeff and Paul, the full episode, uncut, with Sandy Mamoli. We hope you enjoy. Hello, Jeff.
Hello, mate.
How are you? And hello, Sandy. Cheers.
Hello.
We're very lucky to have another guest on our Prestigious Pints pubcast. That's a bit of a mouthful for a Tuesday night. But we're very pleased to welcome another guest, another Prestigious Pint with a guest all the way from, I'm going to say, New Zealand. Am I right?
Yes.
No.
Oh, yes.
Yes. See, Jeff, don't doubt me.
I thought you moved.
But yeah, we're very pleased to have Sandy Mamoli with us today, who's going to just share a drink with us. We're just discussing that we don't think I've certainly not met Sandy in person, so it's nice to meet virtually as well. But we just thought we'd share a pint with you today, or a drink with you at least. But
yeah, it's not a pint.
It's not a pint
really
for me.
Broken tradition today.
I've got a stubby can of pink cider. You a fan of cider, Sandy? Do you like a cider, an English cider?
I do like a cider. I also like English beer, except for Guinness.
Jeff's the beer expert. I just do cider, and I've got a very limited palate. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is like pink, sweet apple juice, so it's lovely. But Orchard Pig. There we go. What you got, Jeff?
Well, my beer didn't arrive today. I got a text this morning to say my beer was arriving, but it hasn't. I think it's been lost. So, for the first time ever on a podcast in over 100 episodes, I'm having a glass of wine.
A glass of vino. Oh, yeah. Very nice.
So, you're supposed to swirl it around, right?
Exactly, and tell us how it tastes. It looks more like Guinness. It's very dark, isn't it?
It's red wine. Yes, I think it's a Malbec. I think it's from South Africa. That's kind of the first criteria for me, because the first time I really got taught to experience wine, appreciate wine, that's the word, was in South Africa. So I kind of have an affinity for South African wines. But this is a Malbec, this is a red one, and it smells a bit like cherries.
Ooh.
I can't believe we've really gone so far as to start reviewing wines on this, what was supposed to be a very boozy, beery.
Yeah. Well, apparently, I got told my beers were going to be arriving today, but I prepare myself for how they look. I got a message from the company, because apparently there's a cardboard shortage in the UK, because so many people are ordering stuff to be delivered to home that they're running out of cardboard. So they've packaged it. I think they used the term creatively.
That's never good, is it?
So creatively, I can't see it. But yeah, enough about me and my lack of beer. Sandy, it's great to have you on. So we this series that we're doing, we're trying to reach out to people who we have looked up to in the community over the time that we've been involved in it. And even though we've never really met, you and I worked together a long time ago on conference tracks and things like this. I've been very aware of you sometimes sort of being out there on your own, if you like, on the other side of the world with not huge amounts of agile coaching community out there. And you've been blazing a trail out there as far as I've been concerned for a long time. But maybe, I don't know, do you see it that way?
Not really. I know. Have you heard of that thing called the internet and
Yeah.
planes? It's actually not.
You were kind of the first real proper agile coach on that side of the world that we were aware of.
Yeah, I was probably one of the first, or maybe single-handedly the very first, but probably more one of a group of people and it was around like 2007, 2008, where I think agile coaching came up or developed worldwide, and my impression was more it was happening all over the world. And quite early on, I met people because there was not many people were doing agile coaching, or it wasn't even called agile coaching back then around the world. And then there were a few people in the UK and a few people in the US, and we all started talking to each other. And I don't remember exactly what year it was that I heard of you, and you wrote your book, and we were on conference reviews, track reviews, 2012, 13, around that.
Yeah, probably.
But
that's 10 years, almost 10 years ago then.
Yeah, probably, yeah. So it's good to kind of meet you face to face.
Yeah.
Even though you get to drink wine.
Yeah.
So what time is it for you there, Sandy? Now, wherever you are, and it looks like from your background, it looks like you're in an office, and that is an office is kind of a strange thing for me to be looking at now, because I'm kind of forgotten what it looks like to be in an office.
This is geeky as it might be. This is actually my home with my Kanban boards.
Oh, wow.
I'm just not at the office because it's so early in the morning. It's 8 o'clock. I don't show up before 9:30, but I still go to the office basically every day. And my personal experience was that we had a 5-week lockdown in April, and when it ended, I just decided actually face to face is so much more fun, and I don't want to do remote work, and I'm super happy and feel really happy and lucky that I get to go to an office.
So is it back to, I was going to say normal, but it's probably not normal by any stretch, but is it normal?
Yeah, well, I could, but our borders are closed, so you couldn't get into New Zealand. If I left New Zealand, it would take me months to get back. Apart from that, I use a scanner app when I go, or I scan in on my mobile phone when I go to a restaurant, but that's it.
Is it? So it's pretty, I mean, you're still aware of it and people are still tracking it, I suppose, but it's not stopping, it's not locking down anything as far as the daily.
No. And we don't have masks, and we don't have social distancing, or like we've got rugby matches with 40,000 people. And I feel
now
like
you're depressing me.
I feel like a dick saying that. I feel like a dick, and it can be over.
But it seems like it's so far away for me right now. That does. That's for But it's possible. The end. There is an end in sight. If that's.
I can be happy for you, Sandy. I can be happy for you.
You're a much better human being.
Has it changed anything work-wise significantly for the companies out there?
I think everyone has a plan B. Everyone has a business continuity plan that if we go into a lockdown, like New Zealand has an elimination strategy. So as soon as we got one case, there's contact tracing. Sometimes then we would go into lockdown for like 5 cases if needed. Mm-hmm. So everyone's aware this could happen tomorrow, and so everyone has a contingency plan what to do, and is able to switch immediately into home working. I think lots of people have started mixing working from the office and working from home, especially people who have a long commute. There's a pattern of people being at the office very often 3 days a week, working from home 2 days a week.
Was that not really a thing before then?
Not so much. No, actually, no. Yeah, my life is I go because I work with two clients and I'm on site, so 2 days with one and 2 days the other one. So for me, it's all office. But most people I know, and with my clients, they do a 3-2 combination. Some people do have 4 days at the office, 1 day from home. And I thought it would change much more. In the beginning, we're all, wow, the world of work has totally changed, and we're never going to go back to the old ways. And we are so productive when we're working from home. And I've taught myself that story too, but I actually don't think so.
No, I think, and I'm glad in a way that backs up my, because I'm feeling that at the moment that I need to get back in front of people, and I do miss that, and it's kind of the reason that I got into Agile in the first place. That I'm a people person, and I get my energy largely from being in an office type environment and experience and being around people. So I'm glad that I'm not the only one in that respect. It's nice to hear.
No. God, no. And there's a chance of going back to normal. Like, I was worried that it had changed. It's like, oh God, everyone loves it, and I'll be the only one wanting to go back. And there's no point doing that if I'm the only one at the office. So I'm quite happy that people came back to office buildings. So there's hope, Paul.
That's good. I am pleased.
Has it changed what you're doing with companies from an Agile coach perspective?
No. It hasn't at all, actually. It's, again, the working from home is harder, I think, especially as an Agile coach, where you actually get to observe people, you get to overhear conversations, and where it's all about, I find it hard to build relationships because everything has to be a meeting if you are working from home. So going back, it has actually not changed anything. People are, one thing maybe that is people are more technology savvy. Everyone knows how to start a Zoom call or a Teams call. And if you need to talk to someone on a day where you aren't there, you just jump on and have a call. That makes it easier. But I think nothing really big has changed.
So the two clients that you're working with now, were you working with them before the pandemic started?
One of them, yes, and one, no.
So was it easier or harder or about the same to get that new client started, that new client relationship started?
Don't forget that our pandemic has been over since May. So
I don't think you'll let me forget that.
No, just rub it in.
May was last year. Oh my days.
Yes.
Incredible.
I'm rubbing it in, and I give you every right that.
You didn't. So that was a relevant question.
Yeah.
So we'll cut that so I don't look so stupid.
We'll edit this to make Jeff not look so silly there. But
that's something people have asked me. In that, if I was lucky last year in that I was working with a client that I've been with for a while, and we had that relationship, we had that understanding, we knew each other, we had that trust and rapport, and so actually being able to move remotely wasn't too much of a challenge for us. But if I was to start with a new client, that I think would be really tough.
Yeah. We haven't managed, I'm part of a company with 14 people, and when lockdown happened last year, we kept most of our existing clients, or the ones we lost were all the tourism industries, like airports and so on, were gone immediately. Kept existing ones, as you said, switched to remote, and didn't get any new clients at all because it wasn't possible to build any relationships. Is that what you're seeing? Sorry.
That's all right.
Well, I honestly don't know, but I don't know whether it's because those companies aren't doing as well, or they're being a little bit more cautious with their spend, or what, whether they're just trying to do things on their own. I don't know.
I was wondering if... Sorry, Sandy. I was wondering if the... Because it was obviously a shorter, in New Zealand, from what you're describing, so a shorter period where that remote element became the way of working. You said it ended since last May. obviously we feel like, I mean, it feels like 10 years that we've been going through this already, but it's obviously probably nearer 10 months, to be honest. But I wonder whether the bounce back will be easier because we've been remote for less time, and we'll find it easier then to bounce back into, oh, it's like it never happened kind of thing. It's back to normal. I think personally in this country, Jeff, I don't know if you're the same, but I think it's going to be a lot tougher to bounce back to where we were so quickly. Social distancing, I think, will be a habit now that people will be used to. I don't think it will just all of a sudden step into the office and people will forget. I don't think it will happen that quickly.
Well, it's interesting, Sandy, you said you don't have masks. I was chatting to a friend of mine who runs a GP surgery here. And so this is normally flu season, and literally flu rates are at 0%.
Are they?
Wow.
0 to 1%.
Because everyone's wearing a mask.
And they're not going out, they're not socialising.
Yeah.
So effectively flu this season has been eradicated. And he was talking about how that's a massive message for society that can't be ignored. His prediction is that even if there's no coronavirus, masks is something that would get people through the flu season. So he sees masks staying here. Don't know.
You look at most Asian countries where people wear a mask when they have a cold. So it might be actually a good thing. And I also realised that with you having dealt with this for such a long time, there's actually a chance that you might learn something. Whereas we just like, oh, this was tough, cool, yeah, move on, back to normal. So I'm not sure if back to normal is so great.
Well, I don't know. It seems like you have learned something. I mean, from a country, would you say New Zealand? I think New Zealand probably has a greater level of. No, that's not. I'm not going to finish that sentence. But I'm thinking, you've had earthquakes, you've had all sorts of different things that as a country you tend to bounce back from. So you have a significant amount of resilience built into your culture, I would say. Is that fair?
Yes, I think so. Probably, I think what was different was that this felt more like it was affecting everyone. Whereas earthquakes, some people were a lot more affected than others. Like in Auckland, I wasn't affected by an earthquake in Christchurch that much. But this felt like we had this messaging of like a team of 5 million. And there was social cohesion that I think helped with that resilience.
You've actually got quite a lot of different cultural experiences, right? You've lived in lots of different countries. Is that right? Have you also worked as in the Agile space in different countries? So how would you, maybe you've probably been asked this many times before, but how would you sort of summarise the differences in cultures that you've seen?
Oh, interesting question. I think my original work culture is Danish. And if you take that as a baseline, then New Zealand is quite hierarchical. And I know that it's not compared to other countries, but compared to Scandinavia, it is, which you can feel when working an Agile way. I found it a lot easier introducing Agile and working an Agile way in Scandinavia than New Zealand. But again, comparing that to Austria, where I've also worked, New Zealand is super flat hierarchy and people. Yeah, a lot flatter and a lot more pragmatic in Austria. So there's a lot more rules in Austria and how you're supposed to do things. But yeah, I do like working in all those different cultures, and it's still kind of small, only 3 countries. I've never worked in the UK. Where would you put the UK? Like somewhere around Austria, more like New Zealand?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't feel qualified to say, but
I think it must give you. Do you find, Sandy, that you have to? This came up in a class I was teaching just today. But do you find that you have to adjust, or you find it easy to adjust your style based on that experience, based on how you've seen different cultures and different organisations, different countries, and how people react differently to the same type of question?
Absolutely. And that goes down to like everyday language where I translate. I speak to a friend in Austria or Denmark and I tell them, hey, I want to leave. See ya. If I do this in New Zealand, I go, I'll let you go. It means the same thing, but you say it in a very different way. I let you go versus I want to leave. And I can just switch. And the same goes for how to explain Agile or work.
Did you learn that the hard way, or did it always come naturally?
Oh, yeah.
I sense a story behind some of that stuff.
Oh, I was more the totally oblivious person who didn't have a story, but I think everyone around me in New Zealand knew that I was just the road European. And I think they were mainly talking about me. I had no idea. I thought it was perfectly fair to say this is a bad idea, which I would say in Denmark. And in New Zealand, I wrap it into how it's good thinking and how I appreciate the thought, but how I ultimately believe we should consider other options. Whereas in Austria or Denmark, I think it's a really dumb idea. And that's fine.
You can be a lot more direct.
Yes, but you're saying the same thing.
A chance that you have a better... Is there a chance that you have a better signal anywhere else in your house? Just you're breaking up quite a bit.
I can open the door and see. I'll just go closer to the router and hope there is no dog barking.
What kind of dog you got?
A mix of everything. It's a brown 27-kilo dog. That's a mix of Border Collie, American Pit Bull, Australian Cattle Dog, Staffy, and 8 more things.
Wow.
Did you say 27 kilos?
Yep. It's not a tiny dog.
That's quite big. I was going to say that's quite big for a dog. That's a small child in my eyes.
Yeah.
What's 27 kilos?
It's probably as demanding as a child.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Do any of you have dogs?
You don't, do you, Paul?
No, we've got a rabbit, 2 rabbits, and 4 fish. That's as far as we've gone.
I think Paul and I are the only 2 households in the whole of the UK that don't have a dog now. It seems
there's been a massive increase, hasn't there? A massive increase in people buying dogs during lockdown.
The price of dogs and also the amount of stolen dogs has gone through the roof because people they want something to do in their houses, something to lift the gloom, but also an excuse to get out of the house. And a puppy's a good thing.
It makes total sense. I guess all of a sudden you have nothing else to do. It's really nice going on a walk, and I'd probably get a dog too. So how far away are you?
But it is good for, I think.
How far are you from getting a dog?
For your mental health. Oh, nowhere near.
I've been working on my wife for 20 years to get a dog, and she refuses to get one. I think the fact that we've gone through a year of lockdown and the whole of the country getting a dog and we haven't got one, I think is a really strong message that ship has sailed.
I think we decided halfway through the first lockdown. I think we probably gave it a fair bit of consideration. It was a reasonably sensible family meeting that we had about dogs. And then I think my wife got bitten by a dog or something like that. She was out running. My wife's quite went into running, and the dog jumped at her and kind of nipped her, and that put her off. That's it. That was it. That was the no dog moment in our house.
Yeah. And also, I think it'd be really nice now, but the pandemic is probably over in a year when everyone's vaccinated. So at some point, we go back to a different kind of life, and the dog, you're going to have them for 10 years.
Yeah, that is true. We this came up today. This is a bit of an aside here, but it was an interesting conversation. I did a training course today. I did day 1 of a training class, and the subject of defining done came up, and I thought we were approaching a coffee break, and I said, well, let's make this into an exercise, and I said, write down quite quickly on a post-it, albeit a virtual post-it on a board, what does a good break look like? You're about to have a short break, and the number of people that wrote down either stroke the cat or stroke the dog, pet the dog, stroke the rabbit. The number of people that wrote down some kind of pet interaction. And I'm seeing more cats now online than I ever have seen. The cats or cats or dogs that bark or meow or walk into shot. I think it's on the increase, but I don't think necessarily that's a bad thing, because I think they do provide some sense of calming, mindfulness. Absolutely.
They do. And I think it's a cool thing that you see everyone's cats and dogs and online. It makes people kind of more interesting. And also, I love the idea of write down what a good break looks to you. That's it's a really cool idea.
There was lots of things around getting outside, tea, coffee, a nice stretch. Someone said reset the back, and I had to ask what that meant. Reset, but apparently it was a back thing, a back issue. But yeah, reset the back, go outside, move around, read a page of a book. Someone said meditate. Someone else said. There you go. That's what a good break looks like these days.
I'm going to link those last two things, and I'm going to come back to you again, Sandy, on this one, because you've got more practical experience on this than me. But so animals and culture. So I've worked at clients in the UK where they've had dogs in the office. So people can bring the dog in, and they can. I've been teaching or facilitating or coaching in a work room, and the dog's just walked in. And I love dogs, so it's fine. But I wouldn't see that in, let's say, Germany. I just would never see that in Germany. And I've seen teaching in Scandinavia, a number of people bring their babies to the training class, and I wouldn't see that in England. And I see a lot of animals on Zoom calls in England, but I don't see a lot of animals on Zoom calls with people who are in other countries. And I think that's an indication of culture, maybe vulnerability, maybe professionalism. I don't know, that kind of interpretation. So you've actually worked in these countries. Would you say that's a signal?
I think totally. And yes, I really like the thought, and it's a really cool observation. I can also share the observation about the same countries. Like I wouldn't see dogs in the office in Austria, maybe in a startup, but I'd sometimes see them in New Zealand. That's of smaller companies could have dogs in the office, and I see lots of animals on Zoom calls. Scandinavia, you're right, babies. You can take a baby anywhere, and I haven't seen that much in New Zealand, which is also weird because Scandinavia has really good childcare.
I noticed it at conferences. I think it was in a Scandinavian conference.
About a 9-month-old.
Yeah, there was someone brought in there, was basically carrying a baby in a sling around, an open space. I think it was.
Papoose.
Oh yes,
papoose. That's the one. Good word. Good use of the word papoose. Yeah.
Yeah. Which countries have you worked in?
None. No, I mean, I little bits. So I'll go for a couple of days or a week at a time, but I still live in the town that I was born in.
What is
Jeff
that?
Jeff doesn't get out much.
No, it's a town. It's not even a city. It's 100 miles away from London, but it's a lovely place.
How many people? Just you?
60,000. I'm going to Google it.
Oh, nice.
What's the population? I reckon we've got more non-residents than we have residents. Cheltenham, Wikipedia. Oh, 115,000. There you go.
There you go.
Apparently, double what I thought.
But you've traveled. I mean, Jeff, you've travelled a bit. You've seen, like you say, you may not have been in places for a long time or done long stints, but you've seen different places, different companies.
So I've done weeks at a time in Switzerland or America or South Africa or something like that. But never actually. And I think you don't really see things unless you're there for a period of time and you're paying bills and you're doing chores rather than living in a hotel. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And deal with bureaucracy, and you don't get the and people stop being nice to you because you're this interesting foreigner, because at some point you stop being interesting and you just better fit in.
I'll take your word for it. I've never stopped being interesting, Sandy. Never had that problem.
Shit. Neither, of course, neither.
Just you.
Just you, yeah. I know, but I've never been interesting. It's a tough life.
You say that. I read on your profile, Sandy, that you're a former Olympian.
Yeah, but I wrote my own profile, so of course it's interesting.
She's also a liar.
Compulsive liar, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it sounded good.
Track or field?
I know, indoor court, handball. Oh, you wouldn't know what handball is. Yeah. Do you know? No, you don't know. Like team
I'm sure I've seen it. I'm sure I've seen it. Isn't it quite rough, quite physical, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the cool thing about it.
It's like rugby on a hard surface, from what I've seen.
Yep, pretty much. But you don't get to tackle people from behind, so you just tackle them from the front or side. Okay. So that evens out the hard surface. But it's a super cool sport.
How did you get on with that?
Get on with that. I had a misspent youth, being a complete sports jock. And I went to a boarding school for athletes. And then at some point I got pretty good at it and went to a few World Cups and the Olympics in '92, which was actually a shitload of work. And it was my entire life. And I only stopped because I realised at some point I needed to grow up.
So when did you stop playing?
92 was
Barcelona.
Barcelona, was it? Barcelona?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, that was Barcelona. Yeah. Yeah. I stopped I've seen two. Yeah. Yes. And I think it was Plaza Domingo playing there. Yeah. It was cool.
That was I always remember that opening ceremony because it was the archer that fired the flame into the torch, and I was like looking at the TV like, oh, that's amazing. So you were there? Were you in the main opening ceremony? Oh,
yes.
That's cool. That's a cool story.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah,
that's a cool story.
Yeah, I do miss those days. That were cool, but I don't think I could work that hard anymore.
So what was it how did it stop? Was it injury, or how did you move away from that sport?
I couldn't really get any further. It was my goal to go to the Olympics, and we finished 5th, which was actually a bit of a disaster because we're the big favourites. But I can invest another 4 years, and I can work on getting gold, but I didn't want to. I also was around 22. I've seen too many people who turn 35, start working in a pizza shop, and which is totally okay if that's what you really want, but they didn't.
Yeah.
So having no education, and you live well if you are a professional handball player, but it's not like tennis where you never have to work again in your life. So great life.
Yeah.
While you're active, but you come out with a few savings, so you can finance your studies afterwards, but you're not rich. So I just I changed something, went to uni, got a degree in computational linguistics, and also moved to Denmark, got a professional contract there where I played like not at an Olympic level, but kind of being paid without being world class and studying at the same time.
Yeah, awesome. And was it then a straight leap from your degree or from your education straight into Agile, or was there another stepping stone that led you down towards a more Agile path?
Almost. I think I had 2 years with a consultancy that did where I was a junior programmer, and they sold the specification document and then the design document and then the implementation phase. And it was this great idea that the client, you could just specify everything, and then the client could have this document and they could always find a different provider. And I thought it was great and made complete sense until I actually tried it. And it didn't go that well. And then I somehow ended up working with Sony Ericsson, and around 2003, we just started working in an Agile way. I thought everyone was doing it. I thought it was completely normal. I didn't even know really it was a big deal. And then in 2006 or 7, I moved to New Zealand and realised that I've been living in a bubble.
It hit home when you moved to New Zealand, did it?
Sorry? Yeah, totally, yeah. Now, that's when nobody was interested in this Agile thing, and what the hell is this? Actually.
So it was initially a hard sell, and when you hit New Zealand, when it was it was relatively new, no one was doing it. Tough area to move into.
Yes, there was basically nothing to move into. There were a few people around the country who had tried Agile, a lot of them foreigners, who didn't want to go back to the old ways of working. But there was a lot of, this is never going to work, and we don't actually want to do that. And I remember going, I don't care about everyone else, but I'm just not going to work in this old way, and started creating my own small worlds. And that's basically how I became a coach.
That's great. So from what I've seen,
again, say New Zealand is in terms of Agile maturity, Sandy?
I think actually not that bad. I think we're probably behind Sweden, but ahead of a lot of other countries. And I think what's good about New Zealand is that people are quite good at, as we say, give it a go, try something out. And our companies are not giga enormous. So we get to play with companies that if there are a few thousand people, which is easier, or 500 people, which I think is easier than the 10,000 or 20,000 people companies that you find in the US. And then there are companies that are like amazingly agile, and then there are companies where, oh my God, you'll never do anything that even resembles agile. And that's okay too. So I don't think we are behind. I think we're actually quite good, but we have quite a different. We have different companies, so we don't have the huge ones. So there's very little experience here in how to run a 10,000 people company.
So you don't have the same level of sort of scaling challenges that a lot of the other countries that you've worked in have?
Yes and no. We have them, but I think they're not real. There's this funny thing about New Zealanders when, like sometimes I go to companies and they say, well, we need to scale and we want to do safe. And I go, okay, so how many teams do you have? And they go, well, 3. So there's a lot of companies thinking they're big because they're big by New Zealand standards. 3 is not even big by New Zealand standards, but they read the same things in New Zealand. They're super interested in what's going on in the rest of the world. And I think there's a little bit of a complex even to get all the knowledge they possibly can. And then they learn a lot. And then sometimes misapplying it to something that's made for 10,000 people at John Deere, like Save, to try to implement it at their 70 people company. which there's no need for. So to your
So
question,
do you
I
find
think
yourself actually talking people out of scaling?
yes. Yes, but mainly like a couple of years ago, it was the whole rage. Scaling was the whole rage, and that has gone away, I think. I haven't heard that for a while. Have you? Is it a thing in the UK at the moment?
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I think it's there was a very a big marketing campaign. Maybe it was deliberate, maybe it was accidental, I don't know, but Safe was certainly running riot. That's a terrible word, but there had a strong push in the UK, probably obviously pre-COVID, but maybe 2-3 years ago. I imagine they were quite. It was everywhere, and it was cool to be for a company to be thinking safe, and it was very much seen as almost surpassed Scrum in many respects. But I think that's, if anything, that's tapered off a bit now. I think we're hearing about more bespoke scaling efforts and more much more emergent evolutionary approaches to dealing with this. Is less of a people talking about it less now.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Yeah. Nice fun. But yeah, I think same here. So I think what age has taught me is sometimes those waves, as annoying as they might be, you can just write them out. You go, yeah, it'll go away a little bit.
But the thing we've mentioned on previous podcasts that Jeff and I have done. It's a bit of a special year this year because it's 20 years. It doesn't seem like 20 years that since the manifesto was written, but and me and Jeff would have been in BT perhaps after 5 years, if we were 2005, maybe 2006, probably talking to ourselves thinking this is never going to last. There'll be something else in the next 12 months, next 2 years. But amazingly, it's still there's still people talking about it now, and still people. Do you find there's still people that you would meet or coach in New Zealand that are still relatively unaware of this whole Agile thing?
Yes, and it surprises me every single time. Like most people have heard of it, most people know something, but there's still people who don't know anything, which is interesting. And the other type of fight is what I struggle actually with a lot more is that the people who think they know Agile, but their understanding is so different from what, now I think I'm in possession of the truth, but what I believe Agile is. Basically, Scrum by the numbers and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's kind of shocking that it's 20 years old.
It's crazy, isn't it? It is bonkers. It really is bonkers.
What's been your favourite bit of the last 20 years?
That's one of those questions where from the interview side, the question is amazing. And from the victim side, you go, shit, 20 years? I don't know. The best thing in Agile for the last 20 years, I think it's...
I could have said 15, but hey.
Yeah, they would have... 15. Well, I can tell you that. I think it's actually... I think the best thing is seeing Agile not just taking place in individual pockets or teams, but that there are people around it who create entire environments where there's Agile thinking and that just enjoy trying things out and enjoy pushing boundaries and experimenting. I think when you get that, that's amazing. And I've got it maybe once or twice, but I think for me that has been the best thing, working with an e-commerce company in New Zealand called Trade Me, where I get to try all that stuff, including self-selection, including being Agile everywhere. I enjoy trying out things that haven't been tried before, and they're usually based on existing Agile ideas and philosophies. So long-winded answer, I think that has been the best thing for me. Your turn.
Can you remember some of the things that you tried and you at the time you were thinking, oh my God, is this really going to work? I'm really nervous. And actually looking back, you think, what was I worried about?
I think the biggest one was actually doing self-selection with 200 people. Okay. I have no idea if this is going to work. No one has published anything about how to do this. We need to figure this out ourselves. It seems like a good idea. It seemed like a good idea at the time, but we're doing this now, and actually we're in completely uncharted territory. And if it doesn't work, there's something really nice about living in New Zealand, or there used to be, which is if you have more than one passport, okay, if it goes all wrong, I've got an Austrian passport in my back pocket, I just spin it and move back to Europe. And to be honest, I'm actually, any client I work with, I'm pretty scared or nervous to start working with, because I don't know what's going to work for them. I don't know if this is doable. I don't know if I can do it, if I can make real change. And and that's also what's exciting about what I do. But I think it's scary every single time. Maybe I'm just
because this is your again. I tried to do a bit of research here, Sandy. I'll admit I tried to do a good thing and do some research. But this is your book, right? You've co-authored a book on self-selection. Is that right?
Yeah.
Bit of a plug there, but a bit of a clang. But go with me on it.
Nice.
So can you just get a quick overview about what that's for any of our listeners that don't know? What's that all about?
Okay. So the book's basically a how-to, and it's how to get people into teams. And the traditional way of getting people into teams is that you've got managers deciding who goes where. And we flipped that on its head, going, well, we know that people know best who they should work with and what they should work on. So why can't we just give them a big challenge and go, hey, the company needs those number of teams. You tell us who should be in which team. So we created a whole facilitation way of facilitating that, so it doesn't go off the rails and nobody ends up crying or in fights, but people have grown-up conversations and figure it out. And the book is a guide and a how-to get that done, both if you have relatively few teams, like 4 or 5, to up to like 15, 20 teams.
Okay. So what would you say is, because I know a couple of companies that have done it, and I know that a couple of instances where they've done it and they swear by it, because it's transformed how it's taken so much of the pressure away from managers and management to form the teams. And once they tried it once, it was that successful. They just do it every time now. It just makes complete sense. Why wouldn't you do it that way?
Yeah.
So I think it's a great technique. But would you say if you were to give a couple of tips that you think are essential to facilitate it, because it is quite scary to facilitate if you haven't done it before? What would you say? Any advice would be if you are thinking about doing that, taking that step?
I think be really, really clear around your boundaries. From a management point of view, what happens if people don't end up in the team you thought they were going to end up or you wanted them to end up? Will you be prepared to go with that? Because if the answer is no, then don't do a self-selection. Then just do an honest management selection. So make sure that's clear. Be really transparent around any constraints when you facilitate. Max team size, for example, or like I've made the mistake that we had a team that we didn't want to spend a lot of budget on. It's like, this is probably max 3 people, but assume nobody would want to be there anyway. 8 people wanted to be there. So we had to then say, oh, by the way, that was the point. So be really clear around those constraints. And the third one is let it be a real self-selection. Don't meddle with it. Don't introduce additional things like that number of senior developers and that number of junior developers. Or
okay.
People saw it. Just I wouldn't do that.
So not too many constraints around it. Then you've got to give some freedom to it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and no, you need to have that kind of domain knowledge or been in a company for that long. Nothing like it. Just makes it more complex, and it will hide
Yeah,
solutions that
because
people
that's
might have
how I've
thought of.
seen this. Yeah, that's how I've seen this particular company do it, and it worked quite well. I mean, I think they had to. They certainly put constraints, but they did put kind of senior, junior, graduate kind of. Each team has to have those things, but you'd say maybe don't do that then.
I think what they did is better than not doing it. But I think, I wouldn't do it because I think people usually, like, it assumes that a senior developer equals a senior developer and an intermediate developer, and they don't. So I think if they find any way to achieve that purpose, let them be whatever combination they want to be. And if it's 5 grads who you know are not going to pull it off, you question them as a facilitator. Like, really? Are you sure you can deliver to purpose? Are you sure that's what's best for the company?
What are you hoping for the future, Sandy, from an agile perspective?
Good question. I think what I noticed is I'd love to see a back to the basics. I'd love to see things like extreme programming come back. I'd love to see some of the original ideas come back. And I think that's because we have a new generation of people and they're building on old ideas. And at some point, so much time has passed that they don't even know about the old original ideas anymore. And this sounds like the old person, you need to know your history. But I was at Agile 2019. And there was a room full of people, and the presenter asked, so who knows the book Great Retrospectives by Esther Derby and Diana Larson? And 3 people put up their hands. And that showed me, hey, there's some really, really good stuff that people would actually benefit from reading. And there are some really good ideas that are getting lost. And I think it's not so much a know your history, because I personally don't care about what happened in Utah anymore. But I think there's some good ideas, and especially in extreme programming, that I'd love to see not forgotten and come back. I guess
Back to the future.
Yes. Yeah, keep the philosophy intact and the ideas. And I hope they don't get corrupted. There's a bit of a danger at the moment.
Cool.
Yeah. What's your hopes?
We had a chat with Mike Cohn a while ago, and he said he wants Agile to disappear. And I kind of, I don't really talk a lot when I'm talking to leadership teams now. I don't really talk too much about Agile. I talk to them about coherence and resilience. I mean, even before the pandemic, we were talking about resilience. And Agile is a tool to become more resilient in certain circumstances. So I think that's kind of where I was on the same sort of page there, in that I want to stop having the conversation about Agile, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But my immediate hope is to get out of goddamn lockdown.
We need to get through this pandemic first. But if anything, it's if anything, the pandemic, I'm trying to look at it as in a positive. I'm trying to do a big positive thing at the moment, Sandy. The way I'm trying to help me and my family get through this is to try and pull a positive out of everything. And I found it easier to explain what complex problems are. If anything, this pandemic's taught me is it's easier to help give people a real life example of what complexity is all about. The solution, nobody knows the way out of this in this country yet. And I'm not speaking for you in New Zealand, but in this country yet, nobody really knows how this is going to end. And that's the scary thing. But from an Agile perspective, that's kind of what you'd expect. So it's given me a nice way to frame it as a positive thing. But it's got to be it's got to be a journey for sure, certainly.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, on the whole journey, I think that's something that we're aiming for. We want to be. That would be my definition of done. My acceptance criteria is that we can go to New Zealand.
It's still, and this is perhaps a false hope, but New Zealand was always a place that me and my wife thought, wouldn't it be great to live there? And I don't know if that's because we went there on holiday. It probably is a lot to do with that. But there's part of us that still thinks, oh, it would be nice to be in New Zealand now. It would be nice to be to be able to live in New Zealand or to work in New Zealand. But it still holds, because I was traveling around New Zealand in 2008. I did a tour around New Zealand. So part of my heart, I think I left there because I was yearning to go back. I promised that I'd take my kids back there one day. So that's the hope.
Yeah. Like any countries, there's really good stuff and there's also really annoying things. But I'd love it if you moved to New Zealand. It'd be great. It'd be great fun. You'd get over the annoying stuff. And
yeah.
As soon as you can, come over. I'll be your guide.
Brilliant. Whereabouts in New Zealand are you? In Auckland?
I'm in Auckland, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Lovely part of the world.
Yeah.
What do we have to say? I'll let you go, or I want to go.
Yes.
What do we have to say?
You have to say, you let me go. I will let you go.
I'll let you go now. Okay, I'll let you go now, Sandy.
I'll let you go now too.
No, it was great to see you and speak to you. Thanks, Sandy.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time.
Cool to talk to you.
Cheers.
Cheers.